Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Thank you so much for tuning in to Mindset in the Morning, brought to you by Higher and Heels. I am Jen Sugarmeyer. I am your host, and I would love if you would subscribe. And if you are getting value from this, I would love if you would share this with your friends and family. We're here every day at 6 a.m. Central Standard Time. But it is YouTube, so you can tune in whenever you would like to. So always appreciate when you show up live. And this is really to get intentional about our day, because when we get our mind right in the morning, it changes the trajectory of our entire life. True story. I don't know if I've ever shared this on the show before. So my mom used to always wake up at I think it was maybe 5:30 in the morning, and I thought, man, she's so crazy. And she would do her workout, and then she would have her prayer time. And I thought, man, this woman, like, it's crazy. She wakes up, she does this every day. I have never known my mom to do any differently in 40 years. And it's funny because now as an adult, I've adopted that exact same thing. And yet I wake up, well, now I wake up at 4:45, but I woke up at 4 a.m. forever and I was doing that. So I was like, okay, is 5:30 crazy or is 4 o'clock crazy? I don't know. But my point is, it's becoming intentional about your life and setting your day off on the right foot. And that's what this is all about. And this week, we're actually talking about intentionality. And so the show is intended for intentionality. This week, we're talking about intentionality. And we've talked about all kinds of things, and visualizing your life and how you want that to look and where you want to be. And today, we're talking about the feelings component of it, because it's not just about your actions and the things that you're doing, but it's how do you want to feel as well. So I want to start off with this quote by John Maxwell. An unintentional life accepts everything and does nothing. Okay. An unintentional life. So if you're not being intentional about your actions, you accept everything and you do nothing. An intentional life embraces only the things that will add to the mission of significance. So when we become intentional about our lives, we become selective about the things that are coming into our space. It's not just anything and everything. And I will tell you, although I was intentional about my workouts in the morning, I was very unintentional about a lot of things in my life. Like, what was the direction of my career? And that's why, and I talk about this a lot because I do think it's important and very relevant, that sometimes we're in a job and our boss changes our job, and we actually have a choice in that. We don't have to take that position. Now you may say, "No, this is great. I like this move. It's a good move for me." But I will tell you, with the last job change that my boss intended to do, that was trying to position me for, I said, "You know what? Nope, not the right one for me." Because I saw where I wanted to be, which was, if I was going to stay in corporate, I was going to go towards CIO and then CEO. And how was I going to do that if I was going to be taking these lateral moves? If I was gonna take a lateral move, it needed to be in an area that I had never experienced and not something that I had already done if I wanted to make my portfolio more well-rounded. That sounded all very corporate-ish and whatever, but you get what I'm saying. So my point is that if I needed to move forward and you were gonna move me sideways, I might as well do something that's going to make my resume more attractive for that role versus doing something that I've already done, which is great, but is that adding value to my resume, to me, to my trajectory? And so it was completely different. So there was intentionality when I was looking at my future career versus in the past when I was just accepting anything and everything that was coming along. And yes, I love that I adopted what my mother is doing in the morning, and I'm getting my mind right, and I'm, getting my body right, and having that for the day. But was I looking at all of these other things that are the composition of my life, which, is, where do I want to be? When do I want to retire? Where do I want to live? All these things I just kind of let happen. In fact, I think about in 2013, when I moved out of Virginia, I moved to California. I said, "Oh, this is where I'm going to be." And then they up and moved me to Texas, and I would have probably moved again if they said, "Hey, let's move again," because I didn't think about where I wanted to be. And that's okay. I'm not saying that it's not okay to move around for a job because I was okay with those moves. But we have decisions. And so that's why it's so important for us to become intentional so that we aren't, just as John Maxwell said, an unintentional life accepts everything and does nothing. So what actually happens when we accept things that maybe we don't want? Yeah, we start to get into this area of resentment or frustration. Like, why am I here? I remember those feelings for myself. Like, why am I here? And I just didn't feel like I had any control. And that's because I didn't. I wasn't taking control of my life. So let's talk about feelings. Have you thought about, well, first, let me start here. Do you remember when you were a kid? And I love this. When you were a kid, and there was the poster up on the wall. Maybe you were 5. And your teacher said, "How do you want to feel today?" Or "How do you feel today?" Let's say that. And although there were like 200 faces up on the wall, you're like happy, mad, sad, angry. You just had a couple because you didn't get really deep. Like, I feel anxious. Like, I feel, whatever. So you just had some very basic feelings. But the truth is, there are tons of feelings that are out there. And I talk about suffering a lot: fear, frustration, anger, resentment, anxiety, embarrassment, boredom, like all these things. Like, we don't feel good when we're in these areas. And then probably your teacher asked you, "Well, why do you feel that way?" And it's because, Jimmy stole my crayon, or I stole somebody's crayon, or whatever, right? And that's why you were feeling whatever feelings you were. But as a 5-year-old, you're not like, "I'm in resentment." Like, it just, you weren't there. You weren't there. But now, as an adult, you're probably more aware of different things, but are you actually aware and in control? Are you being intentional about those feelings? And I ask this all the time: are you happening to life, or is life happening to you? And they're like, "I'm happening to life. Of course. Like, I'm in control." And I'm like, "Okay, well, let me ask you this. Do you have any of those: fear, frustration, anxiety, resentment, boredom, embarrassment, whatever?" I ask, are you ever in these states of what we call suffering? Yeah. So, and they say, "Yeah, yeah, sometimes I'm angry. Yeah, sometimes and I'm like, "Well, then guess what? Life is happening to you." And they're like, "What?" Because we aren't so tapped into our feelings. And then when those feelings happen, that's our trigger to say, "Hold on, that's not how I want to be. That's not how I want to feel." That is like our our map right there. That's like, you are here. When you go to the mall and it's like, "Where am I on this map? I can't figure out this 4-story mall." And it's like, you are here. That's because because you're feeling it. And then when you know that you're here and you need to get over to Nordstrom's, you're like, "Oh, I got to go this way." So if you're like, "I'm here, I feel terrible, I'm angry, I'm frustrated, I'm anxious, and I don't want to be, and I want to be happy," then how do we get there? So it's not rejecting these feelings, it's understanding them. It's understanding when they start to come up in your life. But if we're not paying attention, then just like John Maxwell said, we accept anything. You can push back and say, "Hold on, that's not where I want to be." Absolutely. You have that control. That's being intentional. So it's not just, "I want to wake up and go build a business today." It's, "I want to wake up and how do I want to feel? How do I want my day in my body to feel? When I eat something, how do I want to make this feel?" I stopped eating big meals. And so sometimes I do. If I go out to dinner, like to a restaurant or something like that, I end up eating a big meal. But I did bodybuilding This was a while ago. I think my last competition was maybe 8 years ago, something like that. And I got into this habit of eating tiny little meals all throughout the day. And I was eating, every 2 hours. That's just what I had become accustomed to. And I was eating about 250 calories every 2 to 3 hours. But when I was hungry, or when I could feel my body starting to get hungry, then I would eat. So it actually, I was never hungry and never full. And I still eat this way to this day. Um, but I'm never hungry, I'm never full. And I like that. And I used to I remember as a kid, my parents would take us to Sizzlers, which is this buffet. Do you remember Sizzlers? I don't even know if they're still around. They probably went out of business, and if they haven't gone out of business, like, I'm shocked. But I would go and I would stuff my face. I would get like 3 plates of just like tons of food, and then when I was done, I would go get like multiple ice creams. And that was, I don't know, like, cuz it was just free, access to tons of food, or I wanted my parents to get their money's worth, or because I was a fat kid. I don't know. I don't know why I did that, but I remember walking out every time and being like, "Oh." And I felt terrible. I remember that. I remember being like 10 years old, walking out of Sizzlers, feeling terrible. And that's how I feel now when I eat these big meals, like not quite to that extreme, but that's why I have to avoid buffets because I just don't know when to turn it off. I just keep eating and I'm like, ooh, I don't feel good. I don't like this. So, what I found is that in my life, I prefer to eat these little small meals because I don't go into that state of food coma or meat sweats or whatever I'm going through. I don't have that in my life. I'm going through and I'm never hungry, I'm never full, and my body likes that. I'm not peaking, I'm not valleying, I'm just steady. So how do I want to feel throughout the day? Just never hungry, never full, just consistent. And the truth is, I enjoy that way of eating because that means I get to eat a whole lot more frequently. And that's something for me to look forward to. When I would go into the office and I ate this way, I would bring 4 meals with me and I would go into the office and I would make my food and I would eat it. And then 2 hours later, I'm like, I get to eat again. And people are like, you are eating all day, but I'm eating little small meals. And it was like something for me to look forward to because I enjoy eating. I absolutely enjoy it. And now I get to do it every couple of hours. So, how do you want to feel? Do you want to eat so much that you feel like, oh, I need to lay on the couch? I went one time with a vendor out to this Brazilian steakhouse at lunch, and that was a terrible idea. I realized immediately as soon as I went back into the office, I sat in my chair and I was like, "Oh my gosh." And was having the meat sweats. Like I had eaten so much, I just wanted to be horizontal. There was nothing about me that was like, "Let me sit up and like do work." I wanted to lay down and like take a nap. And that's not how I didn't want to crash like that. I didn't want to feel that way in the middle of the day. And I remember making a decision to myself that day that I would never do that again because I didn't like how I felt. Have you ever gone into your closet and said, how do I want to feel today? Do I have a big meeting? What am I going to put on that makes me feel powerful or strong or confident or whatever the feeling is for you? That's a huge thing. My feelings dictate everything what I wanna wear that day. What feels good on my skin, and sometimes it's not wool. In fact, the older I get, if I see anything has wool in it, I don't care if it's merino wool, I'm like, "That's a no. I don't wanna do it because it doesn't feel good on my skin." And when I put clothes on, I want them to be comfortable. So that's a big part of it. So start to walk into your closet and say, wow, maybe think about what's going on for the day and what's really going to motivate you to feel good. Sometimes it comes down to my heels. I love having some tall, sexy heels. I do. It's part of my branding. It's who I am. I'm 6'1". So I had this woman tell me 2 days ago, she said, Jen, I started talking to you because of your heels. She said, "Your yellow heels were on point." You know? It's just part of my branding. And my shoes, whatever, they're, as good as they can be for size 12. But that is part of it. If I know that I'm going to some place and I really want to accentuate my height. I want to stand out because to me, if I don't stand out, then how are you going to remember me? I mean, there's probably multiple ways that you'll remember me, but that's part of my branding. So I'm like, okay, let's make sure that these shoes are on point with the outfit and maybe I'll make a whole outfit around the shoes. But how do I want to feel? Maybe I'm like, I just want to wear flip-flops because I am not trying to stand in 4-inch heels for 5 hours. Or, maybe it's just not appropriate for what I'm doing. Maybe I'm going walking by, taking a walk or whatever. I'm just going across the street to get some food or whatever. And I'm like, I'm not wearing heels. My feet want to be comfy. So getting in tune with how you feel is everything. To me, that's the foundation. Because if you don't feel good about something, why are you in that state? You need to change it. And that goes back to the power of choice. We always have a choice. And when I've heard people tell me, I had a girlfriend tell me this one time. She said, "Jen, but you don't understand. I have to be anxious because I have 2 kids and they're going to go to college." And I'm like, "Your kids are 6 or 7 or 5." They were really young. And, I'm like, okay, well, I get it. But does anxiety equal results or does results equal results? So sometimes we put ourselves into these states of being and we're like, we have to be in this mode because this is how we're going to get stuff done. And no, you don't. You don't. But if you're not being intentional about how you want to feel, then you're going to be in these icky states that you don't want to be in. Yeah, you are going to have to be anxious because you're not doing anything else about it. And your brain is telling you, like, this is really stressful. Go into this stressed out mode. It's probably releasing all kinds of, what does your body release when it's stressed out? Cortisone or whatever. Yeah, or cortisol. I don't know. You can correct me. But yeah, and you're probably flaming up inside because that's what it does when the body's like in fear. It just it wants to protect itself. It's like a porcupine. It's like, and you start getting ulcers and all these things. Like you don't have to be in that mode, but that's the mode that your body's going in because it's scared. It's scared. It doesn't know. It doesn't know what's on the other side, or it doesn't know how to get someplace. And so it's trying to keep you safe. And it's like, if you just get scared, then it's going to be okay. And it's not going to be okay if you get scared. It's going to be okay if you just work through it. If you consult the right people, if you come up with a game plan, if you work hard, if you just let go. But us getting so stressed out and trying to control things, yeah, that's how your body's going to react, but it doesn't have to. So anxiety doesn't equal results. Results equals results. So where do you want to be? Do you want to take that ownership, like John Maxwell said, and be unintentional and accept anything that happens? Or do you want to be intentional about your life, about your feelings, about how you show up in that outfit, about how you want to feel after you eat a meal, about how you want to be during the day? These are all choices that you are making every single day. And if you are not feeling good about any of them, that is your flag to change something. Warning, time to change, pivot. You are in control of this life. Nobody else. You are the only one that's responsible for you. You can make as many excuses as you want, but you're the one that's responsible for you. Yeah, but I didn't know I was going to get laid off. Yeah, but you worked for a company that could lay you off. So, I mean, and this is a right to work state, so they can lay you off at any time. I mean, and so, yeah, things happen and you're like, man, I didn't expect that. That's okay. But the thing that we control the most is our mind. That's it. That's like the only thing that we can control. We don't have control over all these things happening in our life. That's why we get so crazy sometimes at these ridiculous drivers. We're like, you're a moron. Can't control them, but we can control our response. So, how do you want to feel? That's what I want to leave you with today. When you walk out that door today, how do you want to feel? Powerful? What's it going to take you to get there? A super large breakfast and some sweatpants? Or you want to go put on a power suit and go eat something healthy and then go kick the day? Yes, whatever it is for you, only you can decide. So, we're going to be back here tomorrow. Please like, please subscribe. I would appreciate if you would share this with any of your friends if you've gotten some good value out of this. And this is us becoming intentional. And this week we are talking all about intentionality. So, how do we end this? That's right. We're coming up. We want the world to know. We're gonna let it show. Yeah, ladies, we're coming up. We want the world to know. We're gonna feel the way we want to. I will see you here tomorrow, ladies. Love ya. Cheers.